Hi, Dani. Finally, we made it that I can have this interview with you. Just to say something about Dani, I know her since a few years now, and she's also a health coach. I got to know her through our health coaching education at IRN, and she took a different path. She's all about, yeah, she will tell you afterwards what she's all about. But we are still very much connected. She's also German, like me. And this is a little quick introduction about Dani. But Dani, tell us, who is Dani, just for our audience.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Sarah. So I'm going to call you Sarah because I know we're both German, and so that's how I pronounce your name. So thank you so much for having me here and for the opportunity to speak. Who am I? So I am German. I live in Switzerland. And I came to this whole part of health education, health coaching, basically through my own journey when I was sick, when I had my second child, my daughter, in 2013. And up until that point, I think I was always a very healthy person. I never had any major issues except for some allergies and some asthma, which a lot of us do, I considered as being something normal. It's just something I having to deal with, and lots of people have it, and you have your medication, and that's how you treat it, right? So I considered myself definitely healthy, never had any major big issues in my life. But when my daughter was 1 year of age, I started to develop like a lot of gut issues, a lot of pain, cramps, like IBS. And the worst part for me was also acid reflux. So constant, like it's called GERD, constant acids coming up into my throat. It started at night when I was sleeping, but then eventually after, I would say 3-4 months, it wasn't only at night, it was day and night. And, some days it was better and some days it was really, really bad. And yeah, I started seeing lots of doctors, specialists, and no one could really tell me what was wrong with me. Eventually I took medication because I couldn't find another solution. And but that didn't really help. I had the feeling the medication helped a little bit. I'm not saying don't take medication, that's always like everyone has to make their own decision. But for me, I had the feeling I was taking it and things weren't actually getting better. In fact, they were, I think, after all, were getting worse. And a year later, I then ended up with a whole lot more symptoms. So the gut issue was then only one small issue, but then I had also insomnia. I had a lot of nerve pain. I was very tired, fatigued. I had tinnitus. I had like a rocking boat feeling, like being quite dizzy all the time, being nausea. What else? There were so many things at that stage. I had panic attacks. I was always ice cold, feeling of being ice cold, feeling of disconnection in my body. I don't know. It was a really strange feeling, almost like I wasn't myself anymore. I wasn't connected to myself. That's the best way I can describe it. I lost a lot of weight. I didn't look that great anymore after a while. That took a little bit. It took a little bit for people to pick up what was going on, because initially I still looked okay. But after a while, I didn't look so great. I also had a lot of anxiety in my body, like physical anxiety. And, I just,
couldn't cope anymore. Yeah.
No, I couldn't cope anymore.
Especially
I was still working.
Because you were a mom, you had a small kid.
Yeah, I had the 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I had to cope till very late into time. I was just doing things because I had no choice, right? I mean, we live here, we don't have grandparents here. I was working 60%. It just, I had to work. Things just had to work. But then came a stage when really I just couldn't anymore, because I couldn't sleep anymore. I couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't eat because my body reacted to everything, right? In the end, I was eating rice and zucchinis and carrots. That's the only thing I could tolerate. Even then, I would still have acid reflux. And I also had the problem that when I would work, I would sit there and I could feel my heart would be 160 per minute. It would feel like I'm constantly running a marathon. And I had the feeling, okay, if you keep pushing, this is not going to end well. You need to stop. And that was also the moment. It was a process. It was a big, that you as a mom, you want to be independent. You want to have your own career. I actually really liked my job. It was a very, not easy decision, but it was a decision which I was in the end somewhat forced to, because I knew, I just had this picture, if you now keep pushing with, you know, this heart rate of whatever, it was constantly up.
Yeah. It sounds that your body was in war, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a big war. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, anyways, you asked me to introduce myself, so now you've got the story already, but that's how I obviously ended up in the area of health coaching. I'm a health coach myself now through my own journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And you help other people as well, of course.
Yeah. I help other people, which was a journey too, because it wasn't something that just cleared up in, you know, changing a couple of things in food. It was really like learning about my own body, learning the information, becoming a health coach, and lots of studies, to be honest. And
and you focused at the end more and more on medical medium.
Yes, that's
right?
my main focus. It is still my main focus. Yeah. I
Cool.
started initially with obviously different. I did paleo. I did the what's it called, the histamine one. I did several different cutting out foods and whatever. And paleo, I probably did for a year's time or something, but it didn't really help me, to be honest, initially. But I had the feeling that that whole protein thing was, I didn't see it at that stage. That was the connection I only got from medical medium. The protein also means fat. And the problem is I was at a stage with my whole gut and my liver that I couldn't process all of that. You know, at that stage I was eating, you know, protein in the mornings already, like hemp seeds in the morning and nuts. And yes, those are healthy fats, but in the morning with a liver and an intestine, that's already, you know, it was just too much. And I didn't see it at that stage, right? So I think in hindsight, now looking back, it actually made it worse, to be honest. But then I found medical medium.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's so much mixed messages also in the internet. And if we are lost and we don't know, you know, if we're not a health coach, then we get quickly lost in, as you said, like in paleo for a year and in this and this, because everything in a way, when you read it, makes sense. You're like, oh yeah, you need protein and da. And but at the end, of course, in your situation, it was not good for you.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't good for me. Yeah, and as you say, there are so many, when it comes to nutrition, you know, there's so many people out there where there's so many books and theories, and you're always going to find someone who says, you know, I did this, I heard, you can do it, right? And that's the problem, right? And that's why you get confused, because you're like, okay, well, this person did it. Maybe, you know, maybe that's going to be my solution. And it's really hard, I think, to figure out what's right, what isn't, and what works, what doesn't, and why does it work for that person? Why is it not working for me, right?
Yeah.
But everyone's different. Everyone comes with a different set of symptoms and, you know, organs and detox systems and everything to the place. So that's why you can't just, it doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah. And why do you think, like, how did you feel, let's say, that medical medium was helping you then, like when you started implementing it for yourself?
Yeah. Okay, so with medical medium, I don't know, I think you know a bit of the background, right? So the guy is called Anthony William, and he hears the medical information through a spirit outside of his ear, right? From the outside. He's not channeling, it's from the outside. So when I found his book in 2016, which I found on Amazon, it was, I cannot tell you, there was definitely something divine with it, because I've read so many nutritional books, like the 2 years leading up to that, you know, as I said, paleo, there's been so many things in different congresses or whatever I joined to find a solution. But when I saw that book, I don't know, I just straight away knew this is what you have to read. You have to read it. I saw that book. It took me 20 seconds to order on my Kindle. It took me 2 minutes to start reading it. It took me 1 day to read most of it, right? And the first chapter that I read was me. Every single symptom, and I had about 40 of them, was described in that first chapter. I still remember to the day running up to my husband saying, like, hey, someone who actually brings it all together, and it makes sense when he talks about it. So to me, it was just, I can't tell you, it felt like I found the truth, and I finally found this truth, because I've been waiting
from this.
yeah, that's what it was, because I was before that at a stage where I had already been, you know, I remember the one of the sleepless night in the bathroom, you know, I believe in God. So I said to God, you know, if, you know, I'm just putting down my guards, whatever will happen now, because I feel like I'm constantly fighting, and I cannot fight anymore. I don't have the strength to fight anymore.
Yeah.
And that was shortly afterwards when I found that book, right? And it was for me
kind of a sign, like a sign from your guides.
Yes. And I could have at that stage said, oh, I've already read about 30 books, it's another. To me, it just felt like it hit something in me that said, okay, that's it. And now you have to keep going. This is what you have to do.
I can completely relate to this kind of intuitive feeling, because I had a spiritual experience myself. I will not go into that now, because maybe I will make another podcast about that, about spiritual experiences.
Yes,
but
please.
I had
I'd love to hear.
Experience where my son was in danger, basically. I didn't know in this moment, of course. I was in a different room, and at once I had this message on my head, go in that room. And I didn't even question it. I went in that room and I found him like the whole metal frame was in the air, already falling on his head, and I jumped in between. But that's why I know exactly what you mean by this message, where you don't even question it. It's like a thought, and you just know. So
have to follow. How precious.
Yes.
Yeah. That's our intuition. Wow. So lucky for your son too, that you listen to that. That's so important.
Yeah, but you don't have a choice. When you have this kind of intuitive messages, you don't even question it. It's like a command, almost.
Because it's the truth, so you don't. That's it. That's why you don't question it. Yeah. That's true.
Amazing. So how did your husband then react on this when you told him, now I found it, I found this solution? Was he like, oh yeah, another book? Or how did you react?
No, he said no. I think he was very happy. He read it. I made him read that first chapter because I was so happy. He had to read it, of course, and same thing. It made sense. So he was he was very supportive. He said, okay, good, let's start. Bought a juicer, and I started.
And then how did you react, like when he saw you changing, or like how was this whole experience in the first year, like when you started the medical medium journey?
For him, do you mean for my husband?
For both, like first, of course, for you.
So for me, it was, I started drinking it. But what I did have, and that was, to me, things didn't just clear up, right? That's something initially which I didn't understand. I sort of had hoped, I buy this juicer, I'm going to start celery, and the acid reflux goes away. It didn't work like that, right? It actually took me a year to clear it, right? But I had acid reflux for over 3 years. I almost had it every single day. And now, I'm in year 7. I haven't had acid reflux, and I can't even remember. I can't tell you, probably 3 years. So, like I know it works. I'm clear. I've got fantastic digestion. It's just not an issue anymore, right? But initially, it took that year to get to that stage. So yes, of course, I had times when I was like, okay, I've been doing this for 3 months now. I'm still suffering, but still something in me, and I think it's the same force that we were talking about when I found that book, made me go, you just need to keep on going. You just need to keep on going. But it was I would say a leap of faith, right? I had to come up with that faith. And there was something I had to work on a lot, that faith and trust. And okay, I can't see it yet. I'm not better, but I just need to keep on going.
Just know it will come.
Yeah, exactly. But some things I cleared up, right? So my energy was getting better. I was sleeping better. Like there were things, but they were still on the small side, So it was, it took a little bit.
Yeah. So isn't that also difficult sometimes in your coachings? Because when you coach people, it's mostly not directly a whole year, So if after 3 months, then of course, if they have symptoms like you, let's say, very heavy symptoms, and they don't see the result directly, how does that work with them?
Definitely. That's definitely a point, because we are so used to, I would say, also through the way we've grown up, most of us grown up, when something wrong, you go to the doctor, you take a tablet, and you feel the difference in 24 to 48 hours, right? But when you actually start to understand what's happening, when you really start to look, why am I having this symptom? What's happening in my body that I come to this point that I have that symptom, is that you start to have an understanding, right? Then you also start to understand that it doesn't work. Putting that Band-Aid on doesn't work, right? It works a little bit, but is that what we want? Do we want that band-aid, or do we actually want to look at the root, understand the root, and then heal from a very deep level?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm working with my clients through. And it's also, you can book with me a 60-minute session or 90-minute session, but in general I would say, we can do it. I can give you this information, but that's not life. That's not the healing path, right? It takes time. It takes time. How long have you had the symptoms for? It just takes time when we really look at the root cause. And we tackle the root.
Even with me, it took me 7 years. So it's a process, and I had many back falls as well. That's also life.
Yes, absolutely.
We fall out of the routines, and
exactly. Yeah, and then some things come back, or new symptoms come up, and then we wonder, is it really working? And it's a process. It's not a quick fix. It's a process.
Yeah, but the most important is listening to that intuitive voice, and also to our body, because basically what I understood in the all these last basically 7-8 years is that our body is, with every symptoms we have, it's not a punishment or anything. It's a sign. It's actually a message. And if we see it like this, we kind of almost can be grateful to our body, like, okay, thank you for telling me that my liver is not good. Okay, I will work on it.
Yeah, absolutely, you're right. Yeah, I mean,
not being in this victim mode. Oh, my life is going to pieces.
Yeah, but that's because we want to function, right? Everyone is busy in their life, and they want to function. They want the body to work, and if it doesn't work anymore, a lot of people are annoyed, right? What's wrong with me? It's not working anymore. But I 100% agree with you. It's the body is definitely speaking to us.
Yeah. So how did your family life, or your life in general, but also your family life, change in through this healing? Like, which kind of quality of life, or which new routines could you start back? Like, what changed also in your relationship with your husband?
Yeah. So it changed over time. I think definitely in the first 1 or 2 years, I was still very much, I still had a lot of symptoms. So, that's hard. That's still hard when you start bringing in the stuff, but you have so many symptoms and you don't sleep well, you don't have the energy. That wasn't always easy, right? So it wasn't like, okay, I put it on, everything's great. It was definitely a process. I was more focused on myself initially, but what has changed is for sure the medical medium morning routine. That is, the celery juicing in the morning, the smoothie in the morning, which we do as a whole family now. And that took a little bit. Initially, it was only myself. And at one stage, my husband said, maybe I should try the celery. I mean, he tried it, but, then said, okay, maybe I should also have it every morning, because he saw obviously the changes in me and he was interested. And and now, I mean, if I don't make celery in the morning, he's like, where's the celery juice? It's the opposite. Actually, is normal for us. It's like when other people have a coffee in the morning, for us, it's the celery juice.
Yeah.
He goes like, what's wrong? Have we run out of celery, or what's going on?
Yeah, that's so interesting what you say, because the coffee in the morning, that was so normal for me. Like, really, I remember even I was in Peru, in the mountains somewhere, and I got super annoyed. I remember, like, it was many years ago, of course, because there was no coffee, because we were like hiking or anything, and I made such a fuss about it that I didn't have my morning coffee, that I got from somebody this powder coffee, like this, and finally, my coffee. And now actually I don't want it at all. This, of course, I still like coffee once in a while, but I really feel that it affects me quite strongly, because I'm Vata dosha. But still, in the morning, it's impossible for me now to drink coffee. Impossible. It's like my body resists to it. It's not what he wants. Not at all. He wants hydration. He wants life, prana. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but if you're used to it, it's also highly addictive, right? I mean, you're like, I need it. I need my coffee.
Yeah, I need it. It's really like, otherwise I don't function.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you get grumpy. Like, for me, it would affect my mood greatly. If I wouldn't have coffee, it'd be like, I would be grumpy and, don't talk to me and whatever.
Yeah. And now you're grumpy if you don't have your celery juice.
Exactly. No, actually, yes, it is an addiction too, but it doesn't affect me in that way. Like if I wouldn't have the celery juice, I wouldn't freak out or anything, right? But I would really miss it.
Yeah, it's a different, like not addiction. It's more like a nourishing routine.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's beautiful that your husband has also jumped on it, and your kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that they love the celery juice, right? But they have to. That's just one thing. They don't have to do it every day, but several times a week.
And do they drink like a little bit only, or like how much?
My son drinks, I don't know, maybe 200, 250 milliliters, I would say. And my daughter, she's more difficult. Like he's easier with foods. She is more difficult on that sort of thing. She drinks most of the time cucumber juice.
Yeah.
Because that actually she really likes. And the celery she fights a lot, but I try to get celery in every now and then. And then I put a bit of an apple in for her and, sort of. But it's not like they're getting up and saying, hey, can we have some celery juice? No, it's not the case. Just tell them about what are the benefits, why are we doing it, why is it so important, why is it making your body so strong, like from a positive point of view, without forcing them.
Yeah, that's also so important to understand for them why. My kids, especially the young one, he loves cucumber juice. And now that you say it, you inspired me to create that ritual also with him, to give him every morning his cucumber juice.
Yeah, do that. I think that would be a very good idea. Fantastic. Yeah, it's so
and
good for
another one is, which is also a very good one I find for kids, is carrot juice combined with apple and ginger and curcuma.
Sounds very good. Yeah, sounds delicious.
So anyway, juicing is good for for the audience now. If you're not ready yet for the celery juice, try first the cucumber juice. That's an alternative, apparently, right?
Yeah.
It's not as strong as the celery, but still a very good alternative.
Exactly. I mean, celery is very medicinal, right? It's got so many positive benefits that it's really outstanding.
Yeah.
But if you are listening and you're thinking, oh my God, how on earth can you drink celery juice? Just start with a juice, any juice. It's really then first starting, bringing in a juice, getting this feeling of hydration. And then, then you can start moving towards celery juice.
Yeah. I actually like it now. Like it's really, really, it has almost a salty taste. I think this is coming from the sodium cluster salts in there, right?
Yes. It's the mineral salts. That's the part you want. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But we should make another podcast only about celery juice. It's such a beautiful drink. I even bought the book about it from anti-inflammatory celery juice, and it's crazy that you can write a book only about this topic, and this means something, that it's highly complex. So
if there's only one thing you're doing, it would be that part, the celery juice.
And so do you feel like, because we are almost coming to the end, because Dani has to pick up her kids from school, so one of the last questions I would have to you is, do you feel sometimes restricted in the way you're eating and living?
That's a very good question. That's a question that comes up a lot. I have to say no. The reason is because I never went into this with a restriction for me. I'm not allowed to. It's often the way we perceive things. So I never went into, I'm not allowed to have gluten. I'm not allowed to have dairy. I'm not allowed to have eggs, right? For me, I was at a stage where I was so desperate, I didn't care. I wanted things for me to support my body, right? So to me, the decision of not having those things, that's not from a restriction, that's from an empowerment point of view.
Yeah.
Why? Because now 7 years later, I have not only reversed the acid reflux, I have reversed so many things, even things, what I said, going back into my 20s, hay fever, asthma, all of that is gone, right? It's not a restrictive. And to be honest, like I go out, I'm social, I like it. I go out, I eat, we go on holidays. I've always found my way. And that's also how I got into that. I always go with the expectation or knowing that I'm going to find my way anyways. And I've never, ever struggled. So no, answer to that is not. The only thing where I can say, okay, there I feel like I'm missing out sometimes would be, like you live in France, a nice baguette. Oh, a nice baguette. That would be really nice.
Yeah. But then you could try the recipe I once shared about making gluten-free baguette. But there's yeast in there, and yeast is not allowed with.
Yeast is not great for your liver. It's
Yeah.
not great for your liver. I probably, if it would be a nice one, a gluten-free one, I would probably have it. I wouldn't.
But not for every day. Yeah.
No, exactly.
No, no, and we don't make it every day. But it's more like once in a while for the weekends. We make this baguette. It's amazing. It's warm and crusty.
Ooh, okay, I'm gonna check it out. Yeah, but other than that, I don't, because it's a choice. But that's something we need to check in our own heads, you know. Am I doing this? Do I feel restricted?
Yeah.
Or do I see it from a point of empowerment? And that makes a huge difference. That also makes a huge difference in our own healing journey.
Yeah.
Because the energy of that feeds into everything.
Yeah, because it's also, you gain so much. You gained a new life again.
Yeah, exactly. And even better than before. I can think better. I can see better. I mean, there's so many things where I'm like, no, thank you. I'm not trading it against any scrambled eggs or whatever.
Yeah. And anyway, now you know how to cook, you know how to cook your recipes without all these ingredients.
Exactly.
They're delicious.
Exactly.
And so once you had this potato pizza or something like that, it looked divine.
Yeah, it's exactly. You just, for me, I have a mind where I just went, okay, what's possible, what I've got? What can I do? And I enjoy that. I enjoy trying different recipes, looking how are other people doing that. And I think that's actually nice. That's fun, and finding delicious food, because that's important for me. I'm a big foodie. I love food. Like if I'm going on holidays, the main thing for me is food, right?
Me too.
Yeah. So you find your way. I mean, you're doing it too, right? You also your way, and you just find your way.
Yeah.
You do, and it's so much easier now than 7 years ago. 7 years ago, the whole, there wasn't the vegan movement with the egg dairy wasn't as big yet. It was definitely harder. Whereas if I'm going out now, I mean,
you find everything basically, and you can make everything yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think that's a beautiful last message of this podcast for everybody who's listening. It's all about joy. So never lose the joy of food, because that's basically that's life, eating without joy is it's not living completely. So changing the mindset to this kind of nourishing mindset and joyful eating, that's the basis, and seeing it as a choice and not as a punishment or restriction. And then everything will just go its way. It's basically a process. And it's, I can say it also from my point of view. We have I had a bit different symptoms. I had endometriosis and hyperthyroid and chronic headaches and IBS and all kind of other symptoms, slightly different than you, but both of us, we were basically not functioning anymore as a mom. Like we could not function and give. And for me, it was really worth it. It was, I would not go for a second back to how I felt at that time. It was just, I was not there. I was completely disconnected. And it also affected my mood. It affected my mood. I was always angry. I don't know if you also had that, but I was quickly irritated, and that's something I don't like. Being like that with my kids.
Yeah, being irritable quickly.
Yeah.
Patience that you lose because you're so absorbed with your own issues. You don't have any patience.
Yeah, that, or not only, but also, as we spoke just before the podcast, me and Dani, we spoke a little bit about the liver, how the liver is connected to anger. And this was certainly the case with me. I was completely detoxified, in my liver.
Yeah, definitely. Liver plays a big role. Also with stress. Yeah,
completely. But I think we could make so many more podcasts about all these topics. We just took a kind of a little glimpse of today. But today it was basically really just to inspire you to raise awareness for what is possible and getting to know Dani. So if you want to follow Dani, get in touch with her? Do you have maybe questions about medical medium? How can people contact you?
Yeah, you can either contact me on Instagram. I think you're gonna link it, right?
Yeah, I will
Probably.
put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Exactly. Or I've also got a webpage, which is www.Daniela with one L Richards.ch.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're in Switzerland. Yeah.
I'm living in Switzerland,
Yeah.
but I'm taking clients from
Yeah.
all over the world.
Yeah.
So
And you are coaching in German and in English, right?
yes, in both.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So yeah, thank you very much, Dani, for finally doing this podcast.
Thank you.
Me and Dani, we also made a very nice reel together once where we showed our cooking tips together. I will also link it in the
great
show
idea.
notes.
Baking tips.
Baking tips, that was it, you know, healthy baking tips. Maybe you can directly take some inspiration from that. So have a beautiful day whenever you're listening to that, and stay connected for the next podcast. And maybe there will come more podcasts with Dani in the future about celery juice, about liver healing, whatever. Like there's lots to speak about still.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Bye.
Ciao.